YouTube? Justin Fuller here, and today I am reviewing the 2023 Honda CR-V EXL. If you were curious to whether you should buy a 22 or a 23, I'm gonna help you out with that. And if you're curious how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the world, we're gonna go over that too. So let's hop on in. So let's start off by talking what's underneath the hood of this 2023 Honda CR-V EXL. So I'm gonna pull you on in here. You are looking at a 1.5 liter turboed engine. This is putting out 190 horsepower. Now, there is an alternative if you move up or down to one of the hybrid models, which is a 2 liter engine putting out 204 horsepower. So I just want you to understand some of those differences between the trim levels. Now, I will mention that this year to previous generation is the exact same horsepower. So no major changes to the engine when it comes to the 2022 or the 2023. Now in here, I'll just point out you've got brake distribution, you've got all your easy access to your terminals and anywhere that you're gonna fill fluids, and then you've got some additional space back there if you need to work with it. Easy access to your battery terminals in case you need to jump your car or help a friend out, and then your fuse box is easy accessible as well. So nice and spacious underneath the hood. All right guys, so before we leave the front end of this vehicle, I wanna do a horsepower comparison so you can understand how this vehicle stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. So I'm gonna throw that up on the screen. Now, while that's up on the screen, I just want to remind you one more time that this model versus the 22 has the exact same horsepower, exact same engine, so no changes there, other than you can get this in a few different trim levels now. All right guys, so here we are at the back of this vehicle next to, of course, the gas pump, and I want to talk to you about something that's very important, that's gas mileage for this car. So the two-wheel drive model gets 28 in the city and 34 on the highway. Now, if you want an all-wheel drive model, you're going to give up a little of that miles per gallon. It's 27 in the city, and then you're going to give up 2 on the back end and be at that 32 miles per gallon on the highway. Now, if you want to really get crazy, you can get one of the hybrid trim levels, and then you're looking at 43 in the city, which is an 18 mile per gallon increase on the city, and it's gonna get you 2 extra miles per gallon on the highway, which would be 36. So just something to keep in mind when you're looking at this model versus the all-wheel drive model versus the hybrid. Now, while we're back here, I wanna do a comparison so you can see how this car in the two-wheel drive model stacks up to other vehicles out there in the market. So take a look at that comparison, and we'll keep on moving. All right, guys, so if you're looking at a CR-V and comparing it to other vehicles out there in the market, then cargo space is probably gonna be pretty important to you. So I want to talk to you about the 22 versus the 23, and then of course how this car stacks up to other makes and models out there. Now, you've got 39.3 cubic feet of space from here to those back seats. Now that is about 2 feet larger than it was in the previous generation. Now, when you flip those seats down, it's gonna be almost negligible. That's 76.5 feet. Now, before I flip them down, I will point out that you've got a lot of different rotations you can go through here as far as how you can adjust these back seats in the 23 versus the 22 only had 1. So understand that there are some differences there. Now, additionally, I want to point out that in the 22, this space right here would be a lot flatter. So you are giving up that full flatness that you would have typically in the back of this vehicle. Now, not necessarily the end of the world, but I want you to understand some of those differences. Now, while we're back here, I want to point out a couple other things, some differences. One, in the 22, you would have those handles that would automatically throw the back seats down. They have gotten rid of those. Honda's had those for quite a long time. Now, in the very back here, I just want to point out a couple things. One, they've added a cargo liner in the back of this vehicle, and then you can see I've got my carpeted floor mats that I already pulled out of the car. Now, back here, you can flatten this out a little bit if you want. You can actually pull this piece up and get it set there, but you're still going to have that hump. Now, if you lift this out, this is where your jack, your spare, and all your accessories are gonna live. And of course, my favorite, this funnel, which I'll explain in just a second. All right, guys, so before we leave the back end of this car and jump to that second row, I wanna talk to you about cargo space as this car stacks up to other makes and models out there in the market. So I'm gonna throw something up on the screen so you can first compare with the seats folded up. When you're looking at that 39.3 cubic feet of space, how does this car stack up to other makes and models out there in the market? Now, after that, I want to talk about when you flip these seats down, right? You're looking at 76.5 cubic feet of space in the back of this car, and I want you to see how that stacks up to some of the other makes and models that are out there in the market. All right, guys, so if you don't know what this funnel is that I pointed out here in the back of this vehicle a second ago, I want to explain it. If you ever run out of gas in this vehicle, you're going to come out here, you're going to pop this open, and you're going to see that there's a valve here, and you need a way to hold that open so you can pour gas in. Well, that is what this is for. So all you got to do is slide that in there, that'll hold it open, and then you can pour gas in the vehicle if you don't happen to have a gas can already in your car. All All right, guys, so here I am in the second row of this Honda CR-V, and I want to talk to you about leg space and, of course, what's a little bit different back here from the previous generation, and just what to note, right? So the first thing I want to point out is that you've got a good amount of leg space. So I've got this seat pushed almost all the way back, and I've still got room. You've actually got 41 inches of leg space in the back of this vehicle. Now, as you wrap around, I want to point out a couple things. One, you've got air vents back here, which is great, but you'll notice there is no USB ports. The only way you can get that is if you move up to the hybrid models. So understand that you're not going to have those back there. Your only ones you're going to have are going to be up front in the vehicle, which is kind of a letdown because in the previous generation, that would be an option available to you. Now, I will point out that in the back seat, though, you can see that I have this kind of recline, and you've got several different ways you can recline. So you can actually recline these seats a lot more than you could in the 2022 model. Now, this has got a tan interior since this is an EXL. I believe your options are gray, tan, and black. Now, as you come across, you'll notice you have leather here, and then you've got this like shiny plastic. Not a huge fan of it. It's kind of ugly looking to me, a little bit cheap looking in comparison to that wood faux finish that you would have seen in the 22 model. And then you of course have speakers here. So depending on the trim level of this vehicle, you're going to have a different amount of speakers and a different amount of wattage. Of course, they give you one pocket back here, and then in true Honda fashion, no second pocket. I'll never understand why. So before we leave the second row and jump up into that front row and talk about that, I want to do another comparison. So I want you to understand how this car stacks up to other vehicles out there in the world, right? So you can see that second row leg space. Now, while I'm throwing that up on the screen, I want to remind you that, of course, there is no difference, or excuse me, it's 0.6 inches different from the 23 model to the 22 model. So pretty negligible when it comes to a 22 or 3. So if you're considering this car, looking at those two models, understand that the second row really isn't going to play much of a role other than some aesthetic changes, and you can recline the seat a little bit more. All right, guys. So before we flip around and really start talking about some of the safety features in the dash and the screen layout in front of me, I want to first go over another comparison. So I want you to understand how the leg space in this one, right, the 41.3 inches stacks up to other makes and models out there in the market. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen so you can see how it compares. Once you've looked at that, we're going to flip the camera around and we're going to talk about the nuts and bolts, right? A lot of the electronics, some of the safety features, all these different things that really make a CR-V what it is. All right, guys, so let's walk across the dash and then talk about some of the different safety features and things going on with this car. So first off, I want to talk to you right here. So the first two things you're going to see is, of course, I have the ability to open the tailgate. It is a powered tailgate in the EX model. And then underneath that, I have vehicle stability assist. Now, this is always on and running. So what this is if you go into, you lose traction, it'll transfer power to whichever wheel is getting better traction in the car to help you prevent the skid. And then on here, you've got two additional functional buttons that you could replace and use if you wanted to. Now, before we jump up on the dash, I'll point out that you do have memory seating over here that you can use, and then all your normal controls for windows, door locks, and so forth, and your powered mirrors. Now, when we jump up here, I want to talk to you about what you're seeing here. So I'm going to kind of walk you through the left side and the different menus in the digital display, and then we'll jump to the right side. So on the digital display here, I'm going to kind of toggle through right here and use this to kind of access what we're doing here. So the minute I hit the home button, you're going to pull up all these different menus on here. Now, with these menus, you got a lot of different options in here, and I'm not going to completely go into all of them, but I just want you to have some general understandings. Range and fuel, speed, and time are all related to your gas mileage, right? Audio, depending on what I'm listening to, whether it be USB, whether it be Sirius XM, whether it be through Bluetooth, you know, whatever it may be, I'll be able to access and see right here. Now, my phone, easy as getting to it via Bluetooth if I want to make calls, that sort of thing. Now, navigation, if I want to access that, I can absolutely right here. Whether you're working with a model that has built-in navigation or you're just using the navigation off your phone, when you're not having it pulled up, you're going to see that display right there, which is going to be a compass. So when you have the phone plugged in and you're using your navigation, your turn-by-turn direction is going to show up there as well. Now, driver attention monitor is just set up to where if you're using a lot of the different features, it can kind of alert you just to make sure you're still paying attention, because there's a lot of features we're going to go over here that can kind of eliminate what you're doing as far as driving wise. Now, seatbelt, this is something they new added in 22, so you can see who is not wearing a seatbelt and is sitting in the car. Great if you got little ones that are sitting in the back and you want to make sure that they buckled up. Now, down below that maintenance, it'll you know, present you with oil life and alert you when you get down to 15% so that you'll know, hey, I actually need to change this and get this taken care of. And it'll throw you a code A1, A2, B1, B2 so that you know and you can look it up ahead of time to what they should be recommending you at the dealership. Safety support. Now, this is going to be some of those Honda safety features, right? Part of the suite that they offer. Now, on here, you've got 3 different features that are listed right here. The first being road departure mitigation. So in the event that I start to drive off the shoulder of the road, it'll give me an audible alert and actually vibrate the wheel to say, hey, wake up, pay attention, you're driving off the side of the road. Now, you also have a blind spot monitor system. So I'm gonna roll down the windows. If you're not familiar with this, on the mirrors, you have a little icon right here that'll light up when somebody's in your blind spot. Now, if you start to get over, first off, it'll light up if there's somebody there, but if you start to get over, it'll give you an audible alert to say, hey, there is somebody there, don't get over, right? So this is there to protect you and help you as far as driving around. Now, down below that, you've got your low speed brake follow. So if you're in like a parking lot or somewhere, you're going super slow, it can actually apply the brakes to help prevent an accident if it's looking like you're going to hit another vehicle. And then of course, this model does have parking sensors on the front and back of the vehicle. So as you move closer to a vehicle, so long as these parking sensors are on, which you can see it's checked and on right now, you'll be taken care of. And when you throw on your backup camera, you'll also see these indicators over here letting you know, they'll start to beep and flash as you get closer to something in the front or the back of the vehicle. Now past that, you've got your collision mitigation braking. So if I'm driving down the highway, it's using actually a radar in the front of the vehicle and a camera up here to detect cars in front of me. It's bouncing it off them. So if it's looking like I'm gonna rear in that car first, it'll give me an audible alert. Then it'll, you know, flash in the dash and actually apply the brakes to help prevent me from getting an accident. So this car can actually stop itself to help prevent accidents. So pretty cool features that you have. All of these you can turn on and off. So if there's something you don't like about them, know that you can adjust them. There are some different settings as far as, you know, when they alert, how they alert, those things, but you can also turn them all on and off. So just want you to know that. Now, down below that, no content. If you just want to clear this out and get a little bit cleaner, and you can also remove that tachometer. I've got tricks, tips and tricks videos that you can see exactly how to do that. And then, of course, brightness, pretty easy to understand. Gauge display settings as far as what displays and where, and then your warnings as far as, you know, hey, your door is open, your gas cap, you know, that, well, gas cap you don't have to worry about anymore, but those kind of notifications, right? The hood isn't latched, those sort of things. And then we're back to range and fuel. So that's all of those different menus that you have over on the left side. Now on here, you of course have your voice command that you can, if you have your phone connected to Apple Carplay or Android Auto, which is wireless in this vehicle. On the EXL and Sport Touring, it is wireless. You can press and hold this. If you keep holding it, you'll hear for the beep for Siri or Google, and then you can ask it to do things. So kind of cool, or you can just use it for the standard Bluetooth options. Now over here on the right side of the steering wheel, you have a couple more Honda sensing features. So the first one being right here. So if I press this button, you're gonna see this icon appear up here on the dash. Now what this is this is lane keep assist. So what it's gonna do is use this camera up here at the car to detect the lines on the road. So this way, when I have this set, and I'm going over 45, if I start to drift to the left or right, it'll actually keep me centered, right? So it'll keep the steering wheel centered right in the middle of my lane. So really cool feature. Now, the next one is gonna be related to cruise control. So when I get up to my speed, I could set my cruise control and you'll see this icon right here come on. Now, once I'm up to speed, I can then press this button right here that is gonna set distance between me and the car in front of me. The more boxes, the more space it will keep between me and the car in front of me. Meaning, if I set my speed to 65 and I come up on this car, it'll keep designated spacing and slow me down. And then when I get out from around this car, it'll take me back up to my speed. So that's adaptive cruise control. Now, if you don't want that, no big deal. You can press this button and hold, and it'll flip over to just cruise mode selected. So now I'm using a classic cruise control. Or press it one more time, and it'll flip back to that adaptive cruise control. So know that you have options here and how you do it. Now you've got auto on-off headlights over here, and then your windshield wiper controls for the front and back are right over here. And then of course you do have a push button start that you can see right through there. Now over here you have a dual AC control setup, right? And then you do have heated seats in this car on the driver and passenger side. And your back end is heated as far as the glass. And of course your mirrors are heated in this model as well. Now down below this, you've got you have a USB and a USB-C here, and then you have another power outlet you can use. And then this car does have a wireless charger that you can see running right down there. Now driver modes, just to point them out, you've got a few different driver modes here. You've actually got 3. So if you press this up or down, the first one you'll see in this it's kind of cool. It's got a nice graphic for you, is normal. Then you can jump to Econ and then Snow. Normal is just the classic driving mode. Econ is going to affect shifting points in the car so that you can improve that gas mileage, right? So 28 in the city and 34 on the highway. If you want to push a little bit beyond that. And then of course your snow mode is going to affect those shifting points even further to just create additional traction in the car. So understand that you have these things to take advantage of. Idle start stop, this is just a feature where if you come to a stop and you're sitting there, it can turn the engine off but leave the electronics on. If you ever want to turn it off, you can press this button, but every time you get in the car, you're gonna have to press this to turn that off. So kind of a bummer there. Hill start assist, right? This is just exactly what it sounds like. It's gonna assist you on the hill so you don't slide back or roll into another vehicle. Your park and brake electronic, push the brake up to set it and you'll see the light and it'll actually present you with brake right down there. And then to release, just press down with your foot on the brake. Brake hold is set to where if you're in stop and go traffic, I can press this feature. I have to be wearing my seatbelt to use this, and if you press this, it'll actually tell you up there. But all it does is if I have the car in drive, I can pull forward and come to a complete stop. And when I let my foot off the brake, it'll hold the car at a park, even though the vehicle's in drive. And then when I hit the gas again, it'll move forward. It's good for like stop and go traffic or like drive-through lines, that sort of thing. So kind of an okay, cool feature if you need it. So let's talk about the touchscreen, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and some of the different features that you have here. All right, guys, so here we are on the touchscreen, and I just want to walk you through some basics. So this is your general screen that you're going to see here, and you've got all these different options. And understand, if you ever want to move buttons around or anything, all you've got to do is press and hold, and it'll pull up a menu and allow you to start sliding stuff around to wherever you want to locate it. So very easy to manipulate, and then when you're done, just press done. And understand that there's even a tips section, right? So if I press and hold this, it can help me and say, you know, on things it'll recommend to you. So first off, very easy to customize and move through this. Now on here, all your apps, this is just going to pull up all the available apps you can have, because you can turn some of these off, right? You may not care to see the clock, right? Or the compass, or some of these different displays. So know that you can turn those on and off. Now next to it, of course, accessing Bluetooth, getting to your phone calls, all those different things. Easy enough to do right there. If you've never connected up a phone, very easy to do in this car. When you plug it into the USB for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it'll actually connect up to Bluetooth automatically. If not, you can always go to your settings and connect up, or just hit Bluetooth audio even, and it'll prompt you. Now FM, easy enough. Everybody understands FM at this point. I don't think I need a lot of explanation related to this. Same thing with AM, right? Now Bluetooth audio, if you want to listen to something off your phone or off a device, know that you absolutely can. You do have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which I'll go over here in just a second. You do get 90 days of Sirius XM, so know that that's free, and then afterwards you can negotiate with those guys if you want to continue having the service, or you can let them make you pay full price. Tripometer information, of course, you can access your trip A, trip B, all those different things right here. Easy enough to get to, right? So nothing secret there. USB, if you want to plug in like a USB drive and store a bunch of music to it or anything, know that you absolutely can. Now, if you're thinking, hey, could I put movies on and do it? Nah, it won't work. They've got it blocked. But I've got a solve for you that I'm going to show you in just a second. So for my guys that wish they could watch Netflix, get on Amazon Prime, access some different things, I've got you. So just hold on one second and we'll explain how you can do that. Your general settings right here, this is where you can jump in and access some of those things like smartphone connection. Hey, I want to connect up a phone to my car or anything like that, displays, sound, all your basics, right? So this is kind of everything that applies to like the dash. Now the next one is going to be vehicle settings. So this is where I can control like door locks, windows, lights that stay on, you know, whether I want when I walk up and touch the door handle, if I wanted to unlock my door or all the doors, a lot of those different settings are right in here. If you've never messed around with this, they've actually cleaned this way up and made it very simple now to understand, so not hard to access your door and window, your tailgate setup, all these different things. So very easy to work through here if you want to make any changes or adjustments to the car. Now, as we keep coming across AM, I'm not going to really harp on too much. System updates, connects via Wi-Fi to connect up those updates. Clock, right? I can access a clock right here. You can change the background and do a few different things if you want to. Now, one across from that, Honda Link. Understand that when you connect the phone to Bluetooth, it's going to prompt you related to Honda Link. And what that is if you get in a car wreck and the airbags deploy, Honda will try to call you, and if you don't answer, they can send EMS out to your GPS location, knowing that they now have the color, make, model, and last known location of that car to help protect you. 100% free. Take advantage of this. Now, also related to Honda Link, understand that there are some subscription-based services depending on the trim level of vehicle you get. You can visit honda.com and check out Honda Link, but there's things like being able to start my car from my phone, control the door locks, all these different subscription plans, having a concierge service I can take advantage of. There's a lot of different things that they're starting to offer, but understand that a lot of them are subscription-based, but you do get some trials depending on the trim level of the car you pick. Compass, I think we all get that. Smart Shortcut is actually a really cool feature that just standing about a year ago. What this is as you continue to use the dash layout in the screen, as you start to use it a lot, it'll actually replace a button there for something that you commonly jump over to. So it's kind of like a quick shortcut, but it's based off of what you're using on the screen. So it's going to customize itself to you as you use the screen more. So very cool. And then display mode, understand that you can control the darkness and lightness of the screen, right? And then across the bottom here, know that you have all these shortcut buttons you can jump to, and you can change those, right? So when I jumped over and press that, I can change all of those buttons there as well. So understand that you can do that. All right, guys, so I've connected up my AI Lite Box, and I want to show you what this is. So you'll see Apple CarPlay right here, right? So I'm going to jump into this, and suddenly you're going to see a completely different screen, and you're going to see some icons that you might like. The first one being Netflix. If I want to be able to watch Netflix in my car, I absolutely can. I've just got to be using this Lite Box. And the way the Lite Box works is I'm running its data off of my phone. So I'm using a hotspot on my phone to connect up to this box. Now, the only drag is that they don't have the USB cord inside of the center console anymore. So you're going to maybe have to run this wire behind something and then shove it into the box down there, your storage, right? But understand that I can access things like Netflix. I can jump over into here and I can go to things like Amazon Prime if I want to watch movies there. All these different things I can do. So let me jump back to the home screen and just show you some of the apps that I I have, whether it be YouTube TV, Spotify, like I said, Prime Videos, all these different things, ESPN, Hulu, Instagram, my team's account, Facebook, several different options available to you, Netflix. There's a lot of different apps that you could unlock and download. Now, this is the AI box full version, right? Which is, I want to say about 300 bucks. But I'll throw you up my link that'll actually save you some money if you want to buy one of these, and you can go check it out. And they also make a Lite Box, which is a little bit different. Doesn't give you access to download apps. Like, I can download anything I want on here. If you just want some basic, you're like, man, I'm just trying to get to a couple of the apps. There's also an AI Lite Box, which is about 150 bucks. But I'll throw a link up in the description, and I'll throw my code so that you want to access these, you can get to this, right? Because I know a lot of us out there wish that you had access to every app available to you to be able to use. Because when you're using Apple CarPlay or standard Android Auto or CarPlay, you don't have all these options, right? I can't access all of my streaming services, anything that I want. I can't download backgrounds. I can't set this up to anything that I want. So I want you to be able to take advantage of that if you want to. So understand in the description, there will be something there that you can access it. Now, I will say as a disclaimer, guys, don't be stupid. Don't drive around on the highway watching movies and not paying attention. Be careful, but understand that there are tools out there like the AI Lite Box that will help you access more out of your car. All right, guys, so we made it through the entire vehicle doing some different comparisons and understanding how the 22 and 23 are different. Right now, it's December, it's near the end of the year, so if you're thinking, hey, do I save a little money, maybe buy a 22 or try to wait for that 23, I want you to really understand those differences. So let's revisit all the comparisons we did, starting at the very back of the car. So cargo space. There are two different comparisons that we did. The first being with the seats flipped up. This car has 39.3 cubic feet of space in the back of it. Now, that's about 2 cubic feet bigger than the previous generation, right? Now, I want to also throw up a comparison so you can see how this car stacked up to all those other makes and models out there in the world. So I'm going to throw that up on the screen. Now, after that, we're going to flip those back seats down. You've got 76.5 cubic feet of space in the back end of this car, which is almost the exact same thing as the 22 model. So understand, not a lot of change there. But I do want you to see that comparison of how this car stacks up to other makes and models out there in the market. Now, from there, let's jump into that second row. In the second row, you've got 41 inches of leg space in the back of this car, quite a bit of space. So for sitting behind someone who's me, who's 6 foot 250, I still had plenty of space to sit behind myself. So understand, this car actually does seat 4 comfortably, 5 technically. I don't know, I'd throw 3 in the back seat, right? But the comparison I want to throw up is, of course, that leg space comparison in the second row. So I'll throw that up so you can see how this car stacks up to other makes and models. Now, after that, let's talk about the front row. The front row of this car has 41.3 inches, which I want to say is the exact same as the 22 model, but I want to throw that comparison up so you can see how this car stacks up to other cars out there in the world. Now, when you move into the hood, right, you've got 190 horsepower in the EXL and in the EX model, right, the non-hybrid versions. If you move to that hybrid version, you're gonna have 204 horsepower. Now, that's also gonna play with miles per gallon, but I want you to understand that from the 23 to 22, no changes there. The engine is the exact same. It's a 1.5 liter turboed engine. In the hybrid, it is the 2 liter turboed engine, right? So no changes there as well. Now, comparing this car horsepower-wise to other makes and models out there, I'm gonna throw that up on the screen so you see how this 190 horsepower vehicle stacks up to other makes and models. Now, let's talk about miles per gallon. This car gets 28 in the city and 34 on the highway in the two-wheel drive model version. So if you're going to all-wheel drive model, know that you're gonna give up a mile on the city, so 27 in the city, and you're going down a couple miles to 32 on the highway. Now, if you go to that hybrid model, right, big changes there. It's 43 in the city, right? So another 18 miles per gallon on top of what this one gets. And you're getting 36 in the cities, 36 on the highway. So you're even getting 2 miles on the highway, which is kind of odd because most of the time hybrids are only better in the city. They don't typically do much better on the highway. So understand there are some differences there. Now, from 22 to 23, as far as the standard non-hybrid models, exact same gas mileage, no changes there. So not drastic there. Really, the big changes in this car are just little tweaks and changes there. But I want to talk to you about some of those changes. The big changes, the center console layout. You do have a bigger center console in this car. The very back, right? The seats, when they fold down, it's not as flat as it was in the 22 model. Your cargo space, a little bit bigger in the 23 than the 22, but not drastic. The exterior of the car does look a little bit different. I do like the 23. I think the front end looks a little bit sleeker. It's a little bit nicer look to the car. And then the dash layout that I pointed earlier, you kind of got this flimsy plastic look here, but they did set it up like the Civic with this one large grille on the front. That's nice, clean. It cleans things up to where it makes it a minimal look, which I do like minimal displays in cars. There's no reason to be overwhelmed with buttons and knobs. So from 22 to 23, those are your changes. You've seen all of the different things related to how the car compares to other makes on the models. You saw my new friend here, right here, the AI full box. I know that there's Lite Box out there, so if you're looking for streaming services, different things to unlock your head unit, know you can take advantage of this, and it will be in the description below, both options, and of course my code to save you some money. Outside of that, I asked you for a couple favors. One, like the video. Two, leave a comment if you have a question, concern. I'm always trying to help, and there's others in this community that would gladly answer if they've already owned this car or are thinking about buying it, right? Outside of that, I hope you'll share the video, and then of course, subscribe to my channel, man. Let me tell you about cool cars, Honda, or their comparisons, and all these different products that I get sent out and asked for. Other than that, appreciate you tuning in. Later, guys!